Hey guys, what's up? This is Panzer Dragon, a challenger player in NA, and today I'm going to be going over the top 5 supports for solo queue. This is based on how well they can lane, disengaging, teamfights, and picks. So at number 5 I do have Janna. So Janna's kind of weak in lane, as she doesn't really have any damage, and once she gets some points into her shield, that's when you start noticing her. But I kind of want to talk about her mid game and map presence. So her mid game is actually pretty good, giving people constant shields, slowing down that Jax who dies onto your carry so they can kite him, and the tornado is pretty good CC. And if the enemy wants to use all their engage onto your team, Janna can disengage from the team fight, and if the enemy team just blew all their engage, they'll be vulnerable to kiting. And her map presence, basically if someone's trying to get picked off, she can stall that out or prevent it by knocking them away, slowing them, or even knocking them up from a distance. And of course the shields are pretty helpful. So some cons of Janna is that she actually does not bring any damage. Her tornado is pretty weak and her W does have pretty good base damage, but you either max that second or third. Early on in the lane, Janna does have a pretty small presence, as her base auto attack damage is pretty low, and so is her auto attack range. Janna is also pretty squishy as a support champion, and she doesn't really bring any engage. So number 4, we do have Karma. Karma is making it back into a support role after a few months, and now people are starting to use her. So in the early game, she does actually bring a lot of poke. She does have a pretty strong level 1 because of her ultimate being available at level 1. And well, basically that's all she got, is the poke and of course the rooted CC. And the shield helps too for disengaging and engaging. So let's look at her mid game presence slash team fighting. So Karma does give a free Shurelya's for her team, as she can speed boost her whole team to engage or disengage. She does bring a tether that can root someone, so she herself can make a pick. And of course her Q does keep slowing people down, which also has pretty nifty damage on it. And she's actually pretty good at sieging because she does bring poke, and of course shields do help in sieges, and she can disengage from a tower if needed. So some cons of her is that she doesn't really have any big hard engage or disengage. She only has the root slash Shurelya's, and she doesn't have a big ultimate like other champions. Although her 3 abilities do have presence in the game. So at number 3 we do have Morgana. So the best thing about Morgana that I like is that she can get rid of the stacks on her spell feed really easily. But anyways, let's talk about her laning phase. So in laning phase, all she really has is the binding and the pull, and that's decent poke slash harass. Morgana does have a fairly low auto attack range, so right there, that is a disadvantage. But of course she is pretty good at all-ins, as her ultimate does do pretty good damage, and of course her black shield can block CC from the enemy, and of course can sometimes prevent ganks. Although Morgana does provide a lot of CC, and if the jungler comes for her, and she lands everything, that is a guaranteed kill. Now let's talk about her mid-game teamfighting and roaming presence. So Morgana is pretty good at picking people off, as her Q is a 3-second root. Although of course it is a slow missile projectile, so of course it can be unreliable if the enemy is running away, and she can help her allies if they're being picked off by using the black shield, but it does have a low cast range on it. And her team fighting presence is really highly there mid-game, as she can use her ultimate to peel off people, catch people, and her Q does root someone for 3 seconds. And of course one of the big things is her black shield does ignore CC. So if someone wants to get hard engaged on, they just blew all their CC on them, the enemy should be at a disadvantage. So let's talk some cons about Morgana. So Morgana does sort of fall late game, as her ult is kind of hard to get that AoE wombo combo. So another con is that her threat is less if abilities aren't used properly. That means if she misses her Q, doesn't black shield at the right time, it could be bad news bears. And another con is that she doesn't have any mobility skills. She doesn't really have a speed buff, she doesn't have any gap closers or dashes, and the last con is she has a really low attack range. So at number 3 we do have Leona. So Leona's laning phase is a bit weak, as she is a melee range champion. She doesn't really bring any poke, and all she has is all-ins, which could be dangerous, and of course can be poked down. But of course her all-ins can be rewarding, as she does get tanky, she does apply a lot of damage, and of course can zone the enemy. But let's talk about her mid-game teamfighting and roaming. So Leona's teamfighting is actually really strong. She brings hard engage, a lot of tankiness, and damage from her passive. She can be a diver with another person onto the enemy carry, and not a lot of supports can actually dive onto the enemy carry with another person. And of course when she's roaming, she can make pretty good picks, as her hard engage is pretty long range, and she can lock down an opponent for a long time. So let's talk about some cons about her. She really does lack anything but all-ins, as there's not really any poke or disengage, and Leona does actually have no escapes. Her ult could be used as a getaway tool, but her Q is melee range, so if they're already in melee range, you're probably gonna die. Overall, I do feel like she does excel at mid-game teamfights and becomes a late-game tank. So, at number 1, we do have Thresh. He is literally the best support in the game, as he does everything. He can disengage, hard engage, poke with his Q, has peel with every one of his abilities, has pretty decent damage. Is there something that Thresh cannot do? So in lane, he can obviously hook people, lock down someone for a bit, do a good amount of damage, and of course provides a shield which can get your carry out of sticky situations. This guy is like Blitzcrank except 100 times better. Now let's talk about his mid game and roaming presence slash teamfighting. So if ever someone is in a sticky situation, he can lantern them out and save them from getting picked off. He can also put up a wall and knock them back, while also hooking them to lock them down. When it comes to picking people off, he can hook them, flash flay them into his team, lantern someone from his team to come with them, and then just put up a wall so they can't get away. And now let's talk about team fighting. Although in the team fight I do feel that Leona does have a better team fight just because she's more tankier, does more damage, and provides AoE CC. But Thresh does provide an AoE shield, pretty good peeling, and a hook that can lock down someone, and of course a wall that no one wants to go through because it hurts and it does slow. Now let's talk about some cons about Thresh. He is the hardest support to play in the game, as all his skills are really unique and they're mostly skill shots. He can do a lot of things in certain situations that most supports cannot, and picking which combo for the right situation is crucial. And some stats were previously nerfed, like he's a bit less tankier than he was previously, and I think his damage did get reduced a bit. Overall, Thresh does give the most utility of any support, and he will always be a top tier pick. Hey, thank you for watching. I am Panzer Dragon aka Luigi Dragon. Comment below for discussion. Check out my other tier list for insight, and I'll see you guys next time.